A Bass Bully production.
What's going on, Bass Bullies? Today we're back with another banger episode. Well, maybe it's not a banger, but today we're back. We're gonna do a little tutorial today on beginner ice fishing tips. Just go over the basic necessities of what you're gonna need to get you out on the ice to make sure you're safe and to make sure you can get on some fish.
All right, guys, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff, as you can see, but to really get out on the ice, it doesn't take a huge investment. Just a couple of key things that you need to be safe, and then you can get going.
Before you even think about fishing, these are the first three main necessities that you're going to want to have before you even think about stepping foot on the ice. Ice is never safe. It doesn't matter if you've been fishing for 20 to 30 years. Ice is never safe. Not a single time that you step on the ice is it ever going to be safe.
So the first three things that we're going to go over are the picks, the rope, and some cleats. So these picks here, you want to wear them around your neck. They clip in pretty easy. They float. They're handy. You can wear them other places, but around your neck is really where they're designed to be. If you fall in, what you want to do is you don't want to take a deep breath. You want to stay calm. You want to give your body a minute to acclimate. You want to hold your arms out so that you don't fall further in. And once you've got your senses, you pull these out. And these are going to get you up on that ice, and then you pull yourself up. Once you're up, you want to spread your legs and your arms so that you're dispersing your weight and you're not just going to plop right back in.
When you fall through the ice, the water's going to come out and it's going to make the ice a little bit more slippery than it already is. So when you're trying to pull yourself out of the ice without these picks, you're going to have a really, really hard time. So you're going to want to make sure that you have these picks because of the fact that it's slippery. You can really dig into the ice and pull yourself out with those.
Those edges get real slick. The second thing that we're going to talk about is rope. If you fall in and say these get lost, they don't float, you're just out there. Every time you try and pull yourself up, maybe the ice is breaking. You just need that extra help. Hopefully you've gone out and you've got a friend with you. And one of you guys, hopefully both of you guys, or one of you guys has this rope. You throw it out to him, he throws it out to you, and you get back out on the ice safe.
Never, ever, ever, no matter what you do, if your buddy falls through the ice, don't ever go up to him and try to pull him out of the ice because there's always the possibility of you also falling through the ice. So that's why it's always good to make sure that you have a rope, as well as also making sure that you never go out there by yourself. So what we do is we make sure that we have at least 20 to 30 feet of rope. That way I can at least be this far away from him if I need to throw the rope to him, and he can safely pull himself out of the ice, and I know that I can guarantee my safety as well.
The third thing we're going to talk about is some cleats. These are some really inexpensive cleats. They go for hundreds of dollars. They go for $5-10, but they're definitely a necessity. If you're out there on the ice, you might think, oh, well, I've got good boots and I might be able to just walk on. I'm telling you guys, sometimes the wind gusts get up. Sometimes it's just slick and you'll just skate right across that ice. These things right here are going to prevent you from having a concussion. One of the main things without these that happens is you flip backwards. Your head hits that ice. We hear about it every year. It's just not a good situation that you want to get yourself into.
Also, aside from hitting your head on the ground and getting a concussion, if you do go out on thinner ice, which I'm not recommending that you go out on thinner ice, but anywhere from 4 to 5 inches of ice, there's always a possibility of you slipping and falling and cracking the ice.
That's a really good point.
Right. And so if you slip and fall on that ice, you're going to crack the ice, and you also have the higher probability of falling through the ice without these cleats. So that's always the biggest thing that you're going to want to keep with you is your rope, your cleats, and your ice picks. All right, guys, so before we get into anything else, before we get into lures and rods and reels and all that stuff, we want to talk to you guys about ice thickness, because my first ice trip, I wasn't sure how thick the ice needed to be before I could go out there, what kind of ice to look for. And it's really important for you to make sure that you understand ice thickness and the different types of ice and how to identify the different types of ice before you get out there. So 3 to 4 inches of ice is good, but you really want to make sure that you're going out there between 4 to 5 inches. You'll see people that go out there on YouTube videos in 1 to 2 inches of ice, but personally I'm 240 pounds. I'm a really big boy, so I value my life a little bit more than other people, so I'm not going to step foot on ice unless I got at least 4 to 5 inches of ice. Keep in mind, if I do step on 4 to 5 inches of ice, it's going to be clear ice. The clear ice is what you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye out for, because there's less air particles between your ice and the water, so there's a less probability of you falling through the ice because the ice is a lot stronger. It's just more safe to go.
That clear ice is solid.
Right.
There's no air in it.
You want to make sure that you're watching for cloudy ice as well. And if you do go out on cloudy ice, like I said, 4 to 5 inches of clear ice is good. You want to take that and you want to double that number for the cloudy ice, because cloudy ice has a lot more air bubbles in between the ice and the water, so it's a lot less safe, and it's a lot easier to melt because of the air that's in between. The ice and the water, it just melts a lot quicker. So you want to make sure that you're doubling your thickness with that.
Yeah, you guys, you're also gonna want to add a couple of inches if there's snow on top.
Right.
That snow works as a great insulator. That stuff will insulate. So if you're going out there and you're thinking 5 or 6 inches is great, but it's a warm day and you got 2 or 3 inches of snow on there, there's a good chance you want to rethink your strategy and maybe wait till it cools down a little bit and gets more solid, or look for thicker ice. Alright guys, now that we've got some of the basics taken care of, the safety stuff and some of the gear that you're going to be using, now we're going to get into some fishing. And in order to get to those fish, what you're going to need is an auger. You can get an auger that's, $40-50 all the way up into $300-$500, depending on what you want to do. Right now, we're talking about just getting into ice fishing.
Just the basics.
What we've got is a 6-inch auger here. It collapses, so this nut will come off and it'll collapse and fit into your shed. It's got the blades on the bottom. It's got this that's going to help you disperse the ice, and it's got your crank handles. That's basically it, guys. That's all you need to get down in there into the ice. Once you're in there, you're going to want to grab your scoop. You can take it, you can scoop all your slush out so that you can get your line in and out easily. Also, what we've got is you've got a lip here. You can set that on the ice, and you can kind of measure in inches how much the thickness is.
So we just take a ruler and we just mark the inches. That way,
good old Sharpie.
Right. That way, when we get out there, we know exactly how many inches of ice we're on. That way, we know exactly how comfortable we can be with our ice if we're on 4 to 5 inches, or if we're on 10 to 20 inches or whatever.
So once you've got your hole drilled, you're gonna want to start getting your lines ready. So what kind of fish are you going for? Typically, if you're a beginner, you're going for maybe crappie, you're going for maybe trout, something smaller. For those smaller fish, I use this Shimano Sienna combo. Super light. If you're fishing for those little fish, you want to feel that bite. Sometimes it's so faint of a bite, you don't even know you have a fish on the line. So you want a super light rod so that you can see that action. Yeah, if you're going for some bigger ones, you might go with a medium like this that BJ's got. That's probably your best all-around rod.
I'll use this. It's a medium heavy. It's a Ugly Stick GX2. Like I said, like he was saying, it's about 26 to 28 inches long. It's got a lot more backbone. This is a good all-around fishing pole. You can use anything from smaller lures to medium lures to bigger lures with this. You can still feel it's got the sensitive tip right here, so you can still feel all the little small bites. But yeah, this is a good all-around rod to have. But you can really get out there with an ultralight rod like what he's got.
Listen, guys. Yeah. If you're on a budget, Walmart's got Dock Demons for $15.
Yeah.
Don't let money keep you out of the game.
For sure.
This is something that you can do with if you got a small reel, a regular size open face like this spinning reel laying around, go buy yourself a cheap $5-10 clearance rod and get after it. It doesn't have to take a ton of money to get into. Once you've gotten your rod and reel combo, you want to get yourself some line that is rated for ice. I know it sounds silly. You may think, oh well, I've got some real thin stuff, I can use that. These things are coated so that they don't ice up. If they ice up and they get into your eyelets, it could be a nightmare if you've got a lifetime fish on the line. So check out your lines. There's tons of different thicknesses, ratings. Just make sure you pick up some ice fishing line.
Personally, what I use, something like what he's got, his ultralight rod right there, I'll use like 4 to 6 pound trilene. And personally, when I go fishing, the only line that I use is trilene because it's rated for the ice. Like you said, it's made so that it doesn't freeze up right away. So something like that, I'll throw 4 to 6 pound trilene on that. Something like this, I'll throw, anywhere from 6 to 10 pound trilene on there. But you really don't want to go any farther than 10 pound trilene. And you just want to make sure that you have your drag set correctly because you're using such low test that you want to make sure that your drag is set accordingly so that you don't break off.
That is so important, guys.
Yeah, 100%.
I know in the summer sometimes you leave your drag loose and you missed that hook set and you miss a fish and it's a bummer. But when you're ice fishing, you're talking about losing the fish of a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
Because your drag isn't set right.
Let them run. Let them wear themselves out because say you got a really big fish on that line and you want to pull him through that hole right away, you're not going to be able to grab him, you're not going to be able to hold him, you're not going to be able to get that hook out of there right away. Let him wear himself out. Let that fish do all the work. Let it wear itself out. So that way when you go to pull him in, he's a little bit tired. It's easier to get your hook out of the mouth. And it's just easier for you to get your picture and then release him real quick.
All right, guys. So here's the big thing that all of us and our bank accounts fear the most. The baits. For ice fishing, it doesn't have to cost as much as it does in the summer. Simple stuff. I've got this here. DJ's got that.
I go light, super light. This is all
I got this bigger one back here that I use, and it's really just like a safety blanket for me. I don't ever really dip into it, but it's got some stuff, some bigger stuff that we'll use for Lakers, bigger tubes and weighted hooks and stuff like that. But to get on some of these small fish and have a little bit of fun, this is really all you need. I've got some Swedish pimples, I've got some spoons, I've got some small Castmasters, some tubes, and some of these little weighted hooks that glow in the dark. My favorite ones to use are these little weighted tungsten jigs.
All right, just like this. They're super small.
The weighted teardrop tungsten jigs are heavy. They're small and they're heavy and they sink, and because of their density, you can see them on a fish finder really, really well.
Right. And the thing about these little teardrops, they're super cheap, right? And the thing about these is that you can put plastics on them. You can tip them with your plastics, or you can tip them with just your wax worms with your live bait. We'll get into live bait here in a minute, but my favorite color to use with these teardrops is red, green, or chartreuse, and I really, really like to tip them with plastics, and then on top of the plastics I'll throw a piece of a mealworm or a waxworm on there just to get the scent. But they're really cheap, you know what I mean? Like I said, they're inexpensive. They come in all different shapes and sizes, just like this. It's a little Rafinki. It's just a teardrop. It's got a little piece of plastic on the side of it. I think I paid like $2 for like 4 of these. They're super cheap, and the fact that the ice is out there and it's really cold, the fish are really lethargic, so they don't want to chase their bait. They're even if you have a predator fish, say like a pike or a bass, they're lazy in the wintertime because it's so cold. They're lethargic, like I said. They want that easy meal. So if you throw something like a teardrop like this is basically, all you really need, and you just tip it with a wax worm.
They just swim along, snagging any little snack they can get like that.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not trying to chase down a bigger fish right now this time of year. They're just loading up and getting ready for the really cold days.
We live in Colorado, so a lot of the front range lakes around here don't really freeze up in the wintertime. We do have a few that do freeze up. I know this year is supposed to be a lot colder, so hopefully we do get into some more warm water species during the ice. But, being that we are from Colorado, a lot of the ice fishing that we do is up in the mountains. It's a lot higher elevation. So, being that we're at a higher elevation, a lot of warm water species can't survive up there. So a lot of the species that we target are trout, whether it's, a rainbow trout, brown trout, cutthroat, brookies, tigers, or whatever. Any
Lakes,
kind of trout.
Splakes, Max.
Right. Pretty much any kind of trout. We'll start, sizing up, and we'll start throwing these tube jigs or whatever,
Like I said, this is usually the topic that empties out the wallet, but it doesn't have to, guys. If you're getting out there and you're just getting going, just go out there and pick some of these small teardrop ones. Pick up the tungstens, pick up the Rafinkis, pick up some of these plastics for the back, and experiment and see what works.
As far as live bait goes, out here in Colorado, we can't really take live bait up above 7,000 feet unless it's, wax worms, mealworms, or spikes or whatever. So you take your wax worms, your mealworms, or spikes, and you can tip any bait that you have with a wax worm or a mealworm or a spike. And like what Rick has right here, that is perfect to put your wax worms or your mealworms in, because the package that you buy the mealworms in or your wax worms in, it freezes really quick, and you really don't want your live bait to freeze off real quick. So this container right here is insulated.
You know what, guys? Forget the bait freezing. The first time you have a full can of worms open up in your pocket, you're gonna wish you had one of these.
Yeah.
So pick one of these up. You'll keep them from opening up in your pocket, and you'll keep them from freezing.
Good.
So now that we've talked about the basics, we've got the safety out of the way, we've got the gear out of the way, we got how you're gonna get in the ice, we've got rods, baits, and everything else. Now maybe we're gonna head into advanced mode.
Yeah.
Two of the things that right off the top are these tip-ups that like the one I've got here. This is a Frable tip-up. It's insulated. It won't let the hole freeze up. This thing will open up and it comes down, and you set it up right here so that you can basically dead stick it out. You've got this here that will lean here, and once you get a bite, boom, you've got fish on.
Right, and your fish will run with the line.
It'll let it run. Yeah, you'll walk up to your line, and you'll literally just see it spinning like this. You kind of gently pull it out of the water, set the hook, and hand reel it in. Another one that we have is the jaw jacker, which DJ's actually more familiar with that one than I am.
I like personally to use the jaw jacker just because, first of all, it's more fun for me to reel the fish in with a fishing pole. And aside from hand lining it in, hand lining it in is fun and all, but just feeling the fight on the fishing pole is just a whole nother world.
It's a little easier to pull into.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, and just it's it's a whole lot easier, and just feeling the fight of the fish on there. And then so when you're using this jaw jacker, you want to make sure that you set your drag super loose so that it can run. Mostly because you don't know how soon you can get to the jaw jacker, so you want to make sure that fish can run, and then also just so you can tire that fish out.
So this one will set up kind of like this. You've got it set up, you've got your rod on it, and it'll literally set the hook for you when that fish bites and triggers the sensor. Another thing that is really, really handy to have, probably if I had to say, it's at the top of the list for gear that's not considered necessities, is a fish finder. What we've got here is basically the deeper fish finder. This is a Pro Plus. You can see the depth, you can see water temperature, you can see the fish, you can see weed lines.
All your structure.
So you drill a hole, you plop it, you can see where you're at and what you're getting right there and then. There are other models. This is a beginner model. This is $250. There are other models that are going to run you $400, $500, $600. Some models that you can bring from your boat onto the ice, you just change that transducer.
Right, and this is just as good as any other model. Like if you look here, like you can see the structure right here. Like here you got the bottom, of the water right here. You got your drop off right here. You can see this green right here is all the vegetation that you've got growing around at the bottom of the hole.
Another thing that we're going to talk about is an ice hut. You can spend $70, $80, $100 on a really nice ice hut.
Right.
I think they're 6 or 7 feet by 6 or 7 feet. Or you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on ice huts that you're going to invest a four-wheeler in to pull it onto the ice for you.
Right, you got everything from a quick flip like what I have. It just pops right up. It takes a couple seconds to pop up, all the way to flip over that comes with a sled already attached to it, and you just flip it out. It's got seats on it. It's super heavy. It's about like 100 pounds.
We don't have some of that super heavy gear that some of these guys have. I've got an ice hut that I got off of Amazon. I think it was like $85, and I had a discount and some credit, so it really didn't cost me that much. But it definitely gets me out there on the ice. It keeps me away from the wind. Sometimes those wind can kick up to 30 mile an hour gusts.
You're really gonna want to have a nice hut when them
So
winds kick up.
it's nice to have. Necessity? No,
No.
not necessarily, but it is nice to have, and it will break the bank if you get the right one. I think mine is like 45 pounds.
Right, yeah, mine is
Maybe.
like 30 pounds, and the pack that it goes in is like, you know, a backpack. You can strap it on your shoulders.
I think mine's
and carry
lighter
it.
than yours, so
Yeah, yours is a little
you
bit
can-
lighter, but the difference is between his and mine is that mine is a backpack, his is a carrying case. And so when you get into that kind of investment, you're gonna want to go buy yourself a sled. Personally, I have the Jet Sled Junior. It's really small. It cost me $25. I can literally carry everything that I have invested in ice fishing in that sled. And you know, once you get out on the snow, it's super easy to pull. It doesn't really feel like you're pulling 100 pounds, even though you have 100 pounds. You know, it's just
once you're on
just
that
things to
ice
think
and that
about.
snow, it slides right along. You don't really feel it behind you.
Yeah, just things to think about.
Another thing, since he's mentioned the sled, you want to throw in a shovel.
Oh yeah, for
Even
sure.
if it's just the little collapsible ones that you get at AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts or something that are like this wide, even if it's something like that, it's something that's highly overlooked and everybody on the trip ends up using.
Yeah.
I like to take, if once I set my hut up, or before I set my hut up, I like to get all the snow off of the ice, and then I'll shovel snow back onto the lip of the hut, and that keeps any wind from coming in. One of the other luxuries that you can get for yourself out on the ice when it's cold is a heater. Now you're getting into some more of the ultimate luxuries. Like we talked about tents, you can have thermal tents, you can have heaters,
Right.
and that keeps you really warm. It's nice to stay warm, it's nice to stay comfortable, but be safe. I think some of these do have carbon monoxide detectors. They also have the tip over sensors so that
Right.
so that they will turn off
Yeah.
if they tip over. So keep that in mind. It's one of the higher luxuries, but if you are able to afford it and you can get it, just be safe. We don't want to hear about you being on a news.
Don't watch this video and think that you're going to go out there and be a professional 100%, because obviously we don't know everything about ice fishing. We'll never know everything about ice fishing. We're just out here trying to help you guys out, give you a couple, tips and ideas of what you do and don't need, to get out there on the ice. Don't like I said, don't watch this video and think that you're just going to be out there and be 100% professional about it, and you're not going to fall through the ice.
And you know what, guys?
Yeah.
I think that's about it. So if we forgot anything, guys, leave it in the comments. Like DJ said, we're not professionals. Let us know if there's anything we can add to this.
If you guys liked the video, make sure you drop a like. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you never want to miss another video from the Bass Bullies, make sure you hit that notification bell. Bass Bullies.
Bass Bullies.